The last thing that I want to talk about in this video series is the areas of impact when you start to apply this Eastern methodology of training, or this circular system, or the natural system as compared to the man-made linear system over here. There's key areas that it will make the biggest difference in your sports performance, and I want to make sure that you understand it so that you don't think it's some miracle cure-all or something, okay? All it is just it's the best way to get the maximum performance out of the human body, okay? The first area that I want to talk about that it'll cover, right, is the range in which it can cover. All this training is good within the first 3 to 5 yards or 3 to 5 meters, meaning that if you are a football lineman, this is where it has the biggest area of impact when somebody's right in front of you, or whenever in the range of, I would say, for someone that's about my height, that's 5'11", the biggest range of impact is anywhere between 2 to 4 yards, or anywhere between 1 to 4 yards, anywhere around there. And if you're someone that's 6.5 foot tall to 7 foot tall, then the range will be about 3 to 5 yards, simply because your footwork and everything is a little bit wider than somebody that's my height, okay? So that's the effective range of this, meaning that this is where you make the biggest impact in your sports performance, where if you want to increase your sports performance in that 3 to 5 yard range, anything that's less than 5 yards, this is where it makes the biggest impact, because what it does is it increases your agility in that area. Okay, agility in that area. Your agility is your ability, how fast can you change directions faster than your opponent can, and that's what agility is. The ability to change directions while you are moving, okay, is your agility, and this is where this makes the biggest impact. So any sports where, so like I said before, where you're stationary and then there's a whistle or something, the play begins, like in football, in tennis, in golf, in baseball, any of those, or volleyball, any of those sports where you get to set still first before the game actually plays, this is where all this stuff makes the biggest impact, is in that range of 3 to 5 yards, okay? The other thing too that all this really helps out, another area of impact, is what I call your synchronicity, okay? You're synchronized, okay? And what do I mean by synchronized? That means that, let's say if you take like an American football team or a rugby team, right? And you have them all lined up at the line, and they have to all move all at the same time. There's no better system in the world that I have seen, or that I've studied, that can get a bunch of people to synchronize all at one time on one point. And the reason why we're able to do this in the Wu Chi system, in the Wu Chi martial arts system, is because we understand how the arcs in the human body works. So I'm going to take, for example, one of the biggest challenges that we run into in American football, okay, is that when all the people are lined up, there's always these false starts, okay? You would think that by the time an athlete gets to the Division 1A level or to the professional NFL level, that false starts is no longer a problem, okay? But it's not. You still have people at national championships in football, in college football, that still have false starts. You still have people in the NFL that still have false starts. And the only reason why that happens is because it's not because the other guy is flinching or telegraphing his moves, any of that. That's just a bunch of stupid nonsense. The reason why we still have people that have false starts in games, sports such as that, is because they don't understand how to align the arcs and the initiating force and the prep. These three things right here. Because if everybody on the line, on the offensive line or defensive line, knows how to line up their arcs correctly and how to prep to get ready to move their body, then they will all know whenever somebody is capable of moving or not. So for example, because I understand this, right, if I'm sitting on the other side of the offensive line, the nose guard, the center, and I watch him, I can see how his arcs and his initiating force, how he's prepping his body, and I can tell when he's actually going to move, okay? So there's no false starts. So when everybody on the line, whether it's on the offensive line or defensive line, can recognize and understand how the preps and the arcs work, then what happens is there will be no more false starts. it's not even going to be an accident. I mean, you just completely eliminate it. The reason why I know this is because in the Wu Chi martial arts system, it's designed so that a whole squad or a whole team can protect an important individual, a diplomat, a governor, or the emperor, and they all work in synchronized motion. Meaning that, I'll give you an example in nature, when you have a pack of wolves that hunt down an antelope out in the Serengeti or out in Africa somewhere, you'll notice that they're all synchronized. In other words, you don't see two wolves jumping on and biting somebody in the same spot on their prey, okay? Likewise, if you watch a group of geese or birds fly, if you'll notice, they'll fly in unison and they're all synchronized in their movements. The reason why all the other animals in nature can synchronize their movements is because they understand how preps work and how to initiate force and how to align their arcs together so that they move as one unit. That's one of the biggest challenges in Western sports, is that the whole team does not move in one unit in a consistent manner. Sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. However, if they understand how to prep their bodies and how to initiate force correctly, then everybody will be moving on the same page, okay? They can all focus on the quarterback or the center and then move at the same time. And so that's very important. The other thing too that I want to mention that I made note here of is, in addition to the being synchronized in a team sport, you also have another issue where you have what we call finesse, okay? Meaning that you finesse versus brute strength, okay? So what happens is, in this method over here, we rely on brute strength in the Western training methodology that is based on a linear system that is man-made. It's based on brute strength. I mean, just imagine the two rams or the two bulls trying to run into each other, and whichever the bigger one or the more powerful one wins, okay? Is there finesse to it? Yes. You know, when you have a professional quarterback or some of these guys that, you know, these professional athletes, yes, they do have finesse in the way they throw the ball, they catch the ball, or the way they move, or the way they run and everything. However, it's still basically relying on this right here, brute strength and youth, okay? So you're young, you're healthy, you're strong, you're vibrant, you're more muscular, you're stronger, so you're gonna crush your opponents if he happens to be older. Well, if you focus on this right here, that is one issue that you don't have to deal with. And I like to go back again to the example of someone like Rampage Jackson in the UFC, okay? Now this guy, he's been in so many different fights in his life, right? Now that he's in his late 30s, mid to late 30s, he has more experience than any upcoming fighter that is coming up, right? But so why is it that he's not able to win these fights? Well, there's only one reason. The only reason is that the guys that are coming up are stronger and they're younger than him. So one, the youthness allows them to have more endurance than him, and then their strength, you know, their eye-hand coordination. But as far as the actual striking skills and the actual fighting skills, the actual athletic skills that he requires to be a professional fighter, they're all there. They're still there. The only thing that has gotten him, right, is that the guys that he's fighting now are much younger than him, okay? If you take Rampage Jackson back into his prime when he's fighting in Pride and things like that, and put him up against these younger fighters nowadays, he'll crush them. Why? Because he's good, okay? So when you're playing a sport where you know that there's younger guys coming up and they're hungry and they're trying to take your spot, the only thing that you have to you rely on is your finesse. And how does finesse come? And what does finesse mean? First of all, finesse means that to be able to skillfully execute that human activity, that human motion, with the least amount of effort, energy, and time as possible. That's what finesse is. Let me say that again. Finesse, the definition of finesse in sports, I don't care about any other field, but in sports, finesse is the ability to execute that physical motion in the least amount of time as possible, with the least amount of energy as possible, and generate the maximum force. Okay? So, for example, if someone like Rampage Jackson, and he comes and he punches me with 1,000 pounds of force to my face, right? Probably I'll die from that. However, he has more finesse than someone like me, because he can generate that much power with very little movement. You know, he might just do something, a little short jab like that, or a little short hook like that, and he'll produce 1,000 pounds of force, whereas someone like myself who does not have finesse in striking might have to wind up way back here and throw like a, I don't know, a 8-foot arc looping a punch and still not produce 1,000 pounds of force at the end of the strike, okay? So finesse simply means that you can generate the maximum amount of force with the least amount of time and the least amount of effort and the least amount of energy, everything, okay? So this system right here in the Eastern training, keep in mind, because the people are not physically big and strong like the people in the West, they could never rely on strength to combat someone that was bigger and stronger than them. That's why throughout their entire history, they have always focused on finesse. Being able to take someone like a 5'8", 5'9" guy like Bruce Lee and then generate maximum force out of a little guy like that, okay? Excuse me. So that's what we talk about when we focus on Eastern training, because if you rely on finesse instead of brute strength, then the youth factor over here in a linear man-made system does not have as big of an impact on your ability to increase your sports performance. However, as long as you rely on brute strength to get bigger, to get stronger, yes, getting bigger and getting stronger does help increase your sport performance. Don't ever let anybody take that away from you. However, like I told you before previously in the previous videos, that it has a cap to it. Within 3 to 5 years, right after you leave college, you're going to pretty much max out. You're not going to get any more. You're not going to get any more skillful at your athletic performance. Okay, not that you're not going to get stronger or bigger. You're not just going to. Your athletic performance is not going to increase by leaps and bounds unless you focus on things like this. Okay, so that's the last things that I want to focus on, right, in this video series, so you guys can understand that if you focus on a circular natural system, the way that all animals produce force in nature, instead of focusing on a linear man-made system. And when I say linear, I'm not talking about, you know, a straight line or a straight punch or things like that. I'm talking, or you know, just a straight movement. And I'm not talking about rotating your body or anything like that. A circular system is where you control these things right here, okay? The generation of power, how it's being transferred, how you deal with the recoil energy, and how you create a continuous flow in your human body. And I know that this might be a novel or a new concept to you guys, but I hope that you guys really pay attention to this so that you're able to develop your finesse much more in your sports activity and be able to increase your athletic and sports performance, okay? So thank you for watching this video series, and if you have any questions or comments, just leave them below the video below, and I'll try to address them as they come along, okay? So thanks for watching this video, and if you haven't subscribed to this to my YouTube channel yet, make sure you hit the subscribe button, and if you like this, hit the thumbs up. If you dislike it, hit the thumbs down so I'll know what you guys like to watch, and then I'll make more videos on it and not waste time making videos that you're not interested in. All right, so I'll talk to you in the next video.